Hello. Hi everyone, we're a little off schedule, so I'm going to try to begin to get us back together, but I wanted to say thank you, and we're so happy that everyone's having a good day here. Today's lunchtime panel is really exciting. We have some of our program's alumni who work in various fields in higher education, in public policy, student affairs, college access and opportunity, who are going to share with us a little bit about the work that they're currently doing to give you a sense of where our graduates go on to do, but also their experiences here in the program. This is one of my favorite panels with some of my truly favorite people, so I'm excited to introduce some of our colleagues. But I wanted to just also offer one small personal anecdote, which I forgot to say and Kelly gently reminded me of earlier, was that at my accepted students day when I was a master's student in my master's program, very much like you, walked into a room where I didn't know anyone. And the woman I ended up sitting next to has turned out to be my lifelong best friend. She edited all my papers in graduate school. I ended up just dedicating my dissertation to her. And just last week, she provided some professional networking and advising to Alejandra, one of our students. So got to talk to my girlfriend, Liz. And so just thinking about the people that you meet today will really shape the experiences. And if you had seen these four greet each other out in the hallway, how excited they were to get together again, you'll kind of see this wonderful community, and especially this wonderful community of our four panelists. And so I'm going to ask that our panelists introduce themselves and share a little bit about your background, your current position, the organization you work for, and just a little bit about the work that you do. So I'll turn it over to our panel. We're in the hot seat, Justin. Sorry.
Well, I was going to try to not be the man that just takes the mic and starts. All right, so what's up, y'all? My name is Justin Tonight. I graduated in 2016. I obviously was in the higher ed, but I had the emphasis in diversity and higher learning. I am born and raised in Colorado. I went to CU Boulder for undergrad. Majored in ethnic studies and journalism, and so ethnic studies I think is really what brought me down this path to where I'm currently at, just learning about the various systems of oppression and the way that people that look like me, that have backgrounds like me, struggle to not just access college, but to really find community and develop a sense of belonging on college campuses that will help lead to graduation. And so now that I have graduated from the master's program, I work at an organization called College Track. So we're a college access and success program. We work with students for 10 years, so 4 years through high school and 4 to 6 through college. The majority of our students are first-gen, low-income students of color. And so we really just try to help them develop a college-going identity, but also see themselves, not just on college campus, but see themselves as active participants in their community, using their college degree, not just to make money, but to really use it to make their dreams come true, to find happiness in life, to enjoy the work that they do, and to be able to encourage those that come after them. So that's where I'll stop because we have limited time and I sometimes ramble.
Good afternoon. My name is Ana Ramirez. I'm actually from Dallas, Texas, and I've been out here in Colorado because of the master's program out here. And so a little bit of background about myself. I graduated from Texas A&M University, which is currently the institution I work for in the Office of Admissions as a regional advisor. So I do out-of-state recruitment for the university, specifically covering the western part of the U.S. I have feeder states, and so, but I'm currently based out of Denver. And so before that, what brought me to DU and the master's program was I worked for a nonprofit organization similar to what Justin does, but getting them into college. And so that component, I was getting my students into college, but I wasn't seeing them matriculate through. And so they were coming back a year, maybe a semester, and they're like, Miss, I can't do it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do it? I did it, you can do it too. And so then that really sparked an interest in retention and persistence. And so that's when I started to see, okay, I need to further my education and pursue a master's degree in higher ed with an emphasis in diversity and higher learning as well. And so then I've been out here, and when I moved back to Texas after completing my master's degree in 2016, this position came up and they're like, hey, we're looking for a recruiter to recruit students out for the university. And it was kind of like similar to what Dr. Sponsors mentioned, like that network. And so reaching within your networks, within, specifically for me, for the Aggie network, they're like, I think it would be perfect. You were out in Colorado and then came back. And so now it's my 4th year, and I just, this week, Facebook reminded me 4 years ago, I was in your shoes, right, interviewing. Back in the day, it was a little bit different because interviews were actually, they were going to make a decision on admissions versus y'all are already admitted. So that, congratulations on your admissions, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Erin Winnery. I graduated from the program just this past June, so I'm not too far removed from this building. I'm originally from Sacramento, California. I went to school in Boston and then moved to Denver because I had a ton of family here, and it took a little while to figure out what I wanted to do with my career and who were the people I wanted to surround myself with and work for. I was one of the few in my family to have a very traditional college experience. So enrolled right after high school, graduated in 4 years, and I thought I was unique for doing that, just because my family was taking longer. I have cousins my age who are still working on their associate's degrees, and after some reflection after undergraduate work, I figured out I wanted to help people like my family, who were taking a little bit longer to get through college, who needed more institutional support than they were getting provided with. So I enrolled in this program because I didn't want to move out of Denver, and ended up loving it. I did not choose one of the tracks. I was getting really interested in some policy work, making some structural changes in higher ed, and the policy track was still kind of a new thing when I was in the program. And now I work for Education Commission of the States. We are a national organization with a state focus, so we do public policy research on all education issues ranging from early childhood education to workforce readiness. And it's been really interesting there. I'm working on some early childhood issues now, and still trying to maintain my focus on improving access and retention in higher ed.
Yeah, we can. That's true. Hi, everybody. My name is Lydia Saplee. Welcome. It's good to see all of you today. So I am from Colorado as well. Like Justin, I was raised here most of my life. Also, similar to Erin, kind of returned to this as my career a little bit later on. I was certainly one of the older students in our cohort, and I was in a cohort with Justin. Graduated from the program recently, actually with Erin, because I worked full-time while I did the program here at the University of Denver, and so did the program in 3 years rather than 2. The majority of students I ended up finishing 2. And I initially came into this program thinking I wanted to be a residence hall director, primarily because I was an RA in my undergrad and had a good experience doing that, and thought I might like working at a university, and had done a bunch of other things throughout my 20s, and so kind of thought I'm going to come back to higher ed and I'm going to be a residence director. That's what I want to do. I did not end up doing that at all. I still haven't had a job in res life, but ended up starting out as an academic advisor and really fell in love with that. Just recently, so I was advising students here at DU and actually working primarily with post-traditional students, so adult learners, both at Colorado Women's College when we had an adult program there, and then at University College. And most recently, I actually took a position at the law school supporting faculty. So now I'm not working with students at all, but manage a team of 5 working in faculty affairs and doing more academic affairs. So it's a little bit different, but it's given me kind of a good experience with supervision and budget management, that type of thing, while also just supporting the research and work of faculty in a very different academic unit. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
was wondering if you could share a little bit about how your time in the program has helped you be prepared for your current role and the work that you're doing now.
I think one of the transitions I had to make in this program was getting used to the quarter system. It's quick. It goes by really quick. 10 weeks is not long. But in my current role, one of the main services that we provide to state legislatures is, so say we've got a policymaker in Delaware who really wants to look at competency-based education and how have other states, what are best practices from other states and then how have they implemented that. I get that question from them and I have 24 hours to give them a thoughtful and informative response. So I think the quick schedule here, while it is hard sometimes, I think I'm now beginning to appreciate having to do things quickly and having to do things well on a short timeline.
So there's lots of different ways that I think the HEP program helped prepare me for the work that I do now. To name a few, I would definitely say just my research skills, my ability to be able to find information that's relevant, that helps me think about the practical work that I do and working directly with high school students, especially thinking about trying to take theory and make it actually something that is useful. Because a lot of times people are theorists and just kind of leave it up in the sky. And so this program really gives you the practical experience through opportunities like experiential learning groups where you actually can go to local organizations and work and try to put the things that you're learning into practice. But then also just being able to work individually with some of the different faculty members to help them think about how you refine your craft, how you can use their work, the work of their colleagues, and make it to help us make higher ed a more accessible endeavor for our students. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times it's really just the conversations that I had with faculty and with some of my peers in classes that, you know, sometimes just went on tangents from one of the readings that we had, and being able to reflect upon those conversations to think about how I can be a better practitioner and be a better resource for students is something that I really, I'm glad that I got out of this program.
This program also taught me a lot of teamwork. So there were a lot of projects that we had to do in groups. And so one of the things that currently being a regional in the position that I'm in is we're not in an office. And so I work from my home, my colleague in Atlanta works from her home. And so having that communication skill, like both of us are pretty good communicators, but just knowing that we're working on a project together and we're not next to each other has been one of the things that has really put me in a place where that commodity is not something that I can go and knock on her office like, hey, I have a question, or even just like a venting session, like I got a student, email me or whatnot. And so those are the type of things like just preparing us where I was like, this is why we did a lot of group work and so whatnot. But also either picking up or taking initiative as far as like within that research, if I want something done and my supervisor may not understand it, one of the classes that which I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but supervision and leadership is like, how do I have this conversation with my supervisor who may not know, and how do I like, hey, like let's talk about this, or what about this? And so those are the different experiences that helped this program particularly helped me with that experience.
I was going to add on to that as well. I think that one class that I actually still come back to quite a bit is the leadership and supervision class, which I think everybody is required to take. And it's certainly just the skills I learned in that class has helped me quite a bit. The role that I'm in now, which is, I had a little bit of management experience before, but not that much. And so having a very practical class like that, I return to it again and again, even in my role now with having direct reports and managing, juggling lots of lots of things both in my management with them and in my own work. And I would also say, I just think in general this program did a really good job of both preparing me for the practical side of higher ed in terms of the really practical classes, like leadership and supervision or student affairs for the actual job, but then also for doing research for those of you that might be interested in going into a doctoral program or even just doing research with faculty while you're here. That's something that I really took advantage of while I was here, and so I definitely think that it does a great job of kind of preparing you for both of those sides, I guess, of the field.
So that's a great segue into my next question, which is what assignments or classes or particular experiences really helped you prepare for your professional role?
One of the assignments for me specifically, when college access, not necessarily kind of like that field where everybody is in college choice. I know recently we had the Arthur, one of the books that we read, come out, and so one of those things is I was doing that, and so how the impact that a high school counselor has on a student, on a high school student, and so specifically in my role right now, it's I may not be able to touch a student, but if a counselor knows about my institution or which school is sending what students to where, right? And so that college access, that's something that for me was very, very evident even like this semester, this quarter. And then one of the other ones is critical race theory. And so really having to digest as far as like my background, and so where I'm like, well, I've made it, but technically this space wasn't originally made for me or for people that look like me. And so that is something that I live every single day, specifically because when the type of recruitment that I'm doing, it takes a very specific special student to go out of state, and then who's able to afford it. And so having those conversations with students who are in that field, who can afford it, and then having conversations with families and students who potentially may not be able to afford an institution and pay an out-of-state tuition.
So there was quite a few classes that I often reflect back on or go to my notes or books or articles that I had in those classes because they're still relevant. So anything with Dr. Tuitt. So I took Inclusive Excellence in Organizations with him, as well as Critical Race Theory. And just thinking about the systemic barriers, the institutional structures that limit marginalized communities' access to, and then really how institutions don't take the onus of ensuring that these students, that we persist through to graduation. And so thinking of the importance of things like institutional agents and building out students' networks and provide resources and make sure that they feel good in their own identities. Student development theory is another one, and thinking about how I work directly with high school students and helping them develop their identities. And but it also made me realize that most people that are working within higher ed institutions are using the same literature that has been used for 10, 20, 30 years, and it's predominantly dedicated toward white students, affluent students, non-first gen students. And so thinking about how much extra work that we're having to do to identify like what our students need in order to be successful, knowing that the institutions aren't going to support them in the ways that they need. And so, yeah, it's for me, a lot of the different classes, anything with Dr. Kiyama was fantastic. Being able to really just think critically about the work that we're doing, making sure that we're constantly holding ourselves accountable and our peers accountable is greatly important in my work because yeah, students know when things aren't being done in their benefit. They know when you're looking out for yourself. They know when we're perpetuating systems that have continuously been barriers for them. So yeah, and like I said, for me, anything with Dr. Kiyama and Dr. Tuitt were always just a wealth of knowledge and a great experience.
I think maybe building off of that, this program does a good job of facilitating some really challenging conversations. If it's a conversation that you had in your cohort, or out of class or in class or with the faculty. I underwent a lot of self-identity development in this program. I don't know if I could point to one particular class. Like this was the professor, this was the class. That sparked it or that really culminated it, but it happens throughout the entire 2 years here. And then some of the assignments that I saw starting to be introduced maybe in my second year here, we did a lot of like op-ed writing, which was just a challenging opportunity to figure out how to share a strongly worded opinion in 500 words. I've actually emailed Dr. Sponsor and Dr. Orphan a couple times saying, thank you so much for making me write those stupid op-eds. Because that's my job now, right? Is figuring out how to say in a very short amount of time, here's the important information you need to know, and here's how that applies to your state. Which is maybe not a skill that you build in like access or in persistence classes, but something that we did in civic engagement and public policy.
Yeah, and I agree with almost everything that's been said. I think for me, I really loved every minute of this program. I loved the cohort that I started with. We were a pretty close group, and I think that's one thing that I was just looking back that really stands out to me. And honestly, I pull still from them all the time, just learning from their lived experiences and from just I think the professional development that we got from each other. And yeah, it was just a really, I think, it was a special group, and we're all still close in different ways, and I still reach out to them for, like I even got the job that I have now partially because of someone in my cohort that knew the hiring manager. So I think that's one thing that I will always, I think, take with me from the program is the relationships that I've built, in addition to what I think everyone else can share.
So, yeah, again, Lydia setting me up so nicely. Thank you. So looking back, right? So you've graduated. What additional opportunities would you have taken on as a student, knowing now what you do after the program? So, like, what things might you have liked to have done?
I'll go again really quick. So I think how I would answer this question is not so much what I wish I would have taken advantage of, but something that I almost didn't take advantage of, and that I ended up doing, which I'm so happy I did, was taking an opportunity to do some research with faculty members here in the program. And that was something I wasn't really that interested in initially when I first started the program, and was really more career focused, driven that way, and wanted to really just get the practical aspects out of the program. But I ended up, an opportunity came up to work with Dr. Cecilia Ork on the project, and I ended up going for it, and we ended up taking it to a conference, the big higher ed research conference, and that not only was a tremendous, amazing experience just for if I want to pursue a PhD or doctoral program someday, but also in my own work, I do a lot of research support work now. And so that has helped me a lot just in terms of writing and kind of working with a faculty member on research support. So that's something that I almost passed me by, but in my last like two quarters is when I took advantage of that. So I definitely recommend that. And I think sometimes it's just, actually just going and asking a faculty member, sometimes taking the initiative as a student to approach them, which is what I did. So I definitely glad I did that.
I'll second that. I also approached Dr. Orphan and asked for opportunity to do some research work with her, and that's how I became interested in more of a policy track than the student affairs track. Given the change of my interests, or how my interests developed in this program, I would have quit my on-campus job, actually, because my on-campus job was focused on student professional development, or development as a student professional, student affairs professional. There would have been some challenges that would have come with that. I mean, half of my funding came from my job. But I would have wanted to chase down my interests much earlier. I think I waited too long to fully commit to what I knew I was interested
There's not much of Lydia that I would change or that I would have taken advantage of. I think in similar vein to Lydia, just making sure that you branch out. I learned a lot from people that weren't within higher ed. So making connections with folks in other departments. For instance, communications, they're very critical thinking. That's one of the more critical departments on campus, as is higher ed. But like making connections with people in different departments, I similarly went to a conference, AERA last year, and it was because I was working with somebody from another department, and our interests aligned around like racial equity within education, and so we were able to really further our understanding of the ways that whiteness limits access to these institutions, and able to put some nice stuff on a CV possibly one day.
When I think about it, I'm like, is there something that I didn't do that I wanted to do? And it really comes to not really. Like, I did everything that I really wanted to. But similar to what Erin said is, if you know something, it took me part of it. I didn't come in with a fellowship. And so that was one of the things that it was like, okay, what am I going to do? But if I would have came in, potentially maybe differently. But because of that, I met some amazing people. I met Dr. Tyson and Lydia, and so that was one of the things that kind of like helped me set up for the following year. And then the following, I did it, like I participated and I worked with student conduct. So I was able to explore different avenues and different fields within student affairs, completely different, which is from now like student conduct is really dry cut, like it's black and white. There's very little gray area compared to other places where it's like you can do whatever you want, and you have this liberty of exploring different things. So if you have that and you know, by all means, like go after it.
So I want to be cognizant of time and also give you some time to ask some questions of our alumni, and if there's things people are thinking about or would like to know more about the program or their work, I'll be here for a few more minutes.
My name is Amanda, and I just was wondering if any of you could elaborate a little more on how faculty or how the College of Education helped you transition into being a professional, whether it was an actual position or even like the skills or the support.
So my current boss is the other doctor sponsor. I think that this program in the college has done a good job of building out its network. So while it might not have been how I took advantage of the program was through everybody's networking, and letting them, being open to feedback on some of my interview responses I had prepared for my interview. It helped me to kind of translate what had been an academic focus to a professional focus. So if I was offering up information that was like, hey, that'd be great if you were interviewing for a PhD program, but you're interviewing for a policy position, that's not going to translate to your audience very well. Like being open to that kind of critical feedback in that particular process of finding a job afterwards.
Yeah, I would say, I think that in my experience, the faculty here, all of them are so invested in students and really committed to the success of students. And like, yeah, I think I was really blown away my experience here with the amount of people that were willing to provide a reference or to coach me through something or give feedback, kind of like Erin was sharing. You know, certainly Dr. Tyson, Dr. Orphan, Dr. Fiona, Dr. Cross, see over there. So yeah, I just was really, had a great experience in that way. I do think though, and kind of going back to one of the questions that Dr. Sponsler asked was that I think it's really important certainly to take advantage of those opportunities as a student, and to, you know, to not be afraid to approach faculty members if you have a question or need support, and to take advantage of the many professional development opportunities that the program provides and the college provides, as well as the university provides. So there are a lot of things to attend and different opportunities, but I think it's just looking for those and then being willing to attend and take advantage.
Similar to what Leah said and Erin, one of the things that the program does is towards like the end, the last quarter, there will be different opportunities through the college itself as far as professional development and preparing for that interview, looking over a cover letter, preparing your resume, but also with the university. The university has a career center for graduate students, and I definitely took advantage of that as I was looking for, okay, I've been working in the field for 5 years, but now I have 2 years of like this random kind of experience within admissions and then student conduct, and how can I accumulate all of that? And so the faculty was also always very supportive, being a reference for that.
Yeah, for me, it would just say it's about connecting on a personal level. And so the faculty, as has been stated, really just care. And so I know when I first started, it was really awkward to think about going to office hours if I didn't have an agenda. But it's important just to like also get to know them on a human level, because you know, if you can connect that way, you'll be able to find ways to connect with their work also. But then they're also much more willing to think about you when they have a project, or you know, when they need somebody to come back and talk to students at admitted student day. Those relationships are really important, and they want to build those with y'all.
Thank you, Justin.
I just want to just one real quick. There are in the spring several student affairs conferences that I know a lot of our cohort members will organize group trips to, and the faculty will help them prepare for any interviews that happen during those. So the placement exchange, I think my cohort had like 7 people go to, and then there are opportunities for some reimbursement for your registration for those conferences and things like that. So it's not just the internal relationships, but they do a good job of helping us get to conferences and figuring out what relationships we can build with our campuses.
Yeah, so I attend the NASPA conference with students every year, and so I say that with is that we do things together. So breakfast and attending sessions. I have several students presenting with me who have indicated that they're going. But I think Justin's point too is some of those informal relationships are really important. So when a job description crosses my desk from the Education Commission of the States, I know which 5 students might be interested in that position and who to send it to, right? And we love those sorts of things, and we love maintaining these relationships with our fabulous alumni. So I think we probably have time for maybe one more question. Janelle.
What was your favorite experience at the University of Denver, or in Denver in general, whether that be in the classroom, the field, or even in the mountains?
Oh, well, I mean, again, I'm from Colorado, so, and we had a mix in our cohort, so Lydia, Anna, and I were some of the older folks, and we weren't old, but like we were some of the older folks in our cohort. So a lot of people just were fresh out of undergrad, and you know, so I kind of connected with my family. I was already married, and so I didn't really have a favorite experience, I would say, that happened because of my time here. What I would say is I had my son during the program near the end, and so just being able to like, you know, do my capstone presentation with him in my arms and take pictures and whatnot, that was probably one of my favorite memories.
I think speaking to experiences at DU, there are some incredible speakers that come to campus. I think it's important to remember that there's a university outside of Morgridge, and there are a ton of other interesting and challenging programs that bring in their own guest speakers. So I was always trying to pay attention to how the university is interacting with like larger social issues, and how can that inform my experience in the program. So if it's a speaker series that Dr. Teal had put together, or if it's a conference that the like our environmental sciences program is putting on, making sure to take advantage of the rest of the university was really important. So.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to pick one. I'm also from Colorado, like Justin, and have lived in Denver for several years and was working full-time too, so that was a little different for me, but regardless, I still got pretty close to my cohort. I know a lot of them too, especially the ones that were from out of state, like they, during the winter would, you know, go get like an Airbnb and go skiing and things like that. So we definitely have a pretty close group, and I think that's something that is just really, like, the whole thing is a really fond memory. One thing that came to mind when Justin was talking about the capstone is we all took our capstone together with Dr. Cross, and that whole week was a year-long class that we all took together, and that was just really, really fun. Not only, you know, engaging, I think, in critical scholarship together and with Dr. Cross, but also just being together and being able to present that together at the end, kind of as a final part of our degree was really just a fun experience. So yeah, I definitely recommend just get to know each other, and there's just a lot to be gained from that network. So.
For me, it was connecting with my supervisor. So the first position that I had was with Colorado Women's College and Dr. Tyson, and then the second one was in the Office of Student Conduct. And so with them and having them just share their knowledge, like both of them had experience in their field, and just diving into like their knowledge, and they're also sharing them and going to conferences. That was one of like my favorite things.
Just want to say thank you to all of you for your great questions, and then thank you to our fabulous and wonderful alumni panel. Let's join me in thanking them for being here today. So I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I know that you all do. So wherever you're supposed to be at 1 o'clock, I think there's campus tour starting at 1:30. Dr. Tyson and I are doing what we're calling advising hours. So if you have some questions about the curriculum or what it's like to be a master's student, Dr. Tyson and I will be upstairs. There's also different panels, and I know many of you are off to interviews, and so we hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll see many of you back here about 3:30, I think is the reception. Is that correct? Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you. We'll see you soon.